Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Welcome to the dedication of PFC Andrew Biggio. I'm Roseanne Triumphi Mazzucchelli. I'm the Veteran Service Officer for the town of Winthrop, our lovely and proud town of Winthrop. Before I get going, I'm going to introduce our Council President, Russ Sanford. Thank you.
Thank you, Russ. First, I'd like to recognize some of the other councils. Council Del Vento is here. Councilor Christopher. Councilor, who else am I missing here? I told you I'd forget. Paul Verone. And one last one. Phil Boncour. Oh, Phil Boncour. I'm going to take a little heat for that one, let me tell you. But first of all, I'd like to welcome everyone from the town of Winthrop, the council and elected officials. It's a special day. You know, we celebrate the 4th of July, Veterans Day, Memorial Day, and they all have a special meaning. And it's all about the red, white, and blue. Doesn't mean whether you're Democrat, whether you're Republican. It makes a difference that we're all Americans. And I'm especially proud to be here today for the rededication of one of our own who paid the ultimate sacrifice. Thank you all for coming. I'm proud to be here.
Thank you, Russ. Thank you. Thank you, Russ. So I want to say my thank yous first to the Biggio family especially for bringing this forward, because it's a tremendous, tremendous feat. To Governor Baker for being here, Major General John Jensen, Director of Veteran Services for Massachusetts, Francisco Arena, Speaker Robert DeLeo, Senator Joseph Boncour, Winthrop's own Town Council, our Town Manager, Chief Terry Delahanty, American Legion Post 146, they are at every military event in town, so, and then some. Winthrop's police and fire departments, our DPW family, all of our family, friends, especially my family for being here. Invited guests, and never to be forgotten, my fellow veterans. And now our color guard approach. Please stand for the national anthem, which is going to be sung by Alex Thierry. Right up close, son.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hail at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
That was beautiful. Thank you. Next, we have Deacon Jim, who is going to lead us in prayer. Deacon?
Well, good morning, everyone. As Roseanne just said, my name is Deacon Jim Leo. I'm from St. John the Evangelist Church. It is an honor and a privilege for me to be here this morning as we honor Andrew Biggio. So let us begin as we always do in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. And let us pray. Dear Lord, today we dedicate this memorial square in honor of Private First Class Andrew Biggio. 73 years ago, Andrew gave the ultimate sacrifice of his life, fighting in the hills of Italy during World War II. We also offer our thanks, Lord, for all the men and women who serve our nation. And Lord, may everything we do today begin with your inspiration. May you bless us and keep us. May your face shine upon Andrew and all who have given the ultimate sacrifice for our freedom. We ask now for you to bless the ceremonies of this hour and grant us your peace, mercy, and grace. And we ask all of this in Jesus' name. And may Almighty God bless all of us in the name of the Father, and Son, and the Holy Spirit.
Thank you, Deacon Jim. Andrew Giovanni Biggio was born on July 16, 1925. You can all take your seats, I'm sorry. He was born and raised in Winthrop, Mass., where he attended public school. In 1943, he graduated from Boston Latin School and enlisted in the United States Army, and attended boot camp at Fort Devens, Mass. In May of '44, he joined the 34th Infantry Division, 135th Infantry Regiment, and as they advanced through mid and northern Italy. The division participated in 6 major Army campaigns in North Africa and Italy. The division is credited with amassing 517 days of frontline combat, which is 25 more than any other division in the United States Army. One or more of those units were in actual combat for 611 days. The 34th Division suffered 2,866 killed in action. That's 2,866 more than should have happened. 11,545 were wounded in action, 622 were missing in action, and 1,368 men were taken prisoner by the enemy, for a total of 16,401 battle casualties. The division soldiers were awarded 10 Medals of Honor, 98 Distinguished Service Crosses, 1 Distinguished Service Medal, 1,153 Silver Stars, 116 Legion of Merit Medals, 1 Distinguished Flying Cross, 2,545 Bronze Star Medals, 54 Soldier Medals, 34 Air Medals, and duplicate awards of 52 Oak Leaf Clusters and 15,000 Purple Hearts. Tremendous amount of Purple Hearts. Senator Joseph Boncory was born and raised in Winthrop as the grandson of Italian immigrants who came to the United States in search of a better life. Joe was raised to place a high value on public service, taught strong values, and that he needed to give back to the community, which he has done over and over in Winthrop. He has served on the boards of several nonprofit organizations, including National Vice President of the Sons of Italy in America and National President of the Commission for Social Justice. Joseph is also an attorney. Working alongside his dad, his brother, and his sister, he has been an active supporter of political reform for most of his life, particularly in the areas of affordable housing and criminal justice. Joe has led Winthrop's affordable housing programs, which I count on so much, and has been ranked one of the top performing in the Commonwealth. Please join me in welcoming our Senator, Joseph Boncory. Need to hold it up here, okay?
Thank you, Rose.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rose. Good morning, everyone. What an incredible honor it is to be here. But what an even bigger honor it is to be able to speak before our great Speaker of the House, Robert DeLeo, and even the Governor today. I don't know how that happened on the schedule, but I'm happy to do it. I think it's wonderful that the town has all come out as we do each and every day for Veteran Services all throughout the year. Today is of special importance as we rededicate the Andrew Biggio, Private First Class Andrew Biggio Square in memory of Andrew Biggio and his entire family. It's wonderful to see General Jensen, who came, and as well as Colonel Olson, who came all the way out from Minnesota. These gentlemen represent and command the 34th Infantry, based out of Minnesota. The Private First Class Biggio was a part of when he perished on the hills of Italy. And it's a testament to the entire U.S. Army that you gentlemen decided to take the time out of your busy schedules to be with us here in this small town in Massachusetts today. Winthrop's a small town, but it's a great town. We're here for a rededication because in the 1950s, when this went up after World War II, there was so much loss in that great war of World War II. There was so much loss personally. There was so much loss across the country. There was so many veterans, some who are amongst us today, who sacrificed a great deal. And there's more who paid the ultimate sacrifice. Of the Red Bull Division lost about 2,800 people, as you've heard, 2,800 soldiers. This small town of Winthrop, town of 17,000, lost nearly 60 men in that great war. And if you think about that, you think about the volume of loss that this country suffered and that this town suffered. That's the reason why there wasn't a ceremony for Private First Class Biggio. Not because the town didn't want to do it, because there was so much loss. So it's important that even now today that we do this and we remember those that we lost in World War II, later in Vietnam, and the Korean conflict. It's something we must do each and every day as a town. It's something we need to take a stand for, and something, quite honestly, that we need to do more often. We need to make sure that every person who paid that ultimate sacrifice is remembered in this great town. It's wonderful we're doing it to here. It's wonderful to spend some time with the Biggio family, and what a legacy it is that we all know who put this program together. My dear friend and the namesake of Private First Class Biggio, Andy Biggio, who put this event together. And what a legacy to Private First Class Biggio that his namesake not only was a war hero, but all he's done for veterans who are returning since, wounded veterans, of course, with his Wounded Veteran Run. It really is a testament. Andrew, you really are the legacy of Private First Class Biggio, and you should be very proud of that. I just want to thank you all for being here. God bless you all, and God bless our veterans. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. And now, our own Speaker of the House, Robert DeLeo, who has represented the town of Winthrop and Summer Revere, can't forget Revere, in Mass House of Representatives since 1991. He's probably our town's best friend. Speaker DeLeo has done so much not only for the town of Winthrop as a whole, but so much for its seniors and our veterans. I can always count on him to be at all of my local veteran events, and I appreciate that. Speaker DeLeo has done so much for the rest of the Commonwealth as well, particularly with exceeding energy goals and economic development, creating strong gun control laws, cutting health care costs, and has made more strides to combat the current substance addiction epidemic. Speaker DeLeo's priorities continue to include job creation, a strong fiscal management, and giving residents a competitive edge through educational opportunities. Please join me in welcoming Winthrop's friend, Speaker Bob DeLeo.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Rose, for that extremely kind introduction. And I also want to welcome Brigadier General Jensen and also Colonel Olson as well. I'd also like to, first of all, more importantly, welcome the Governor of the Commonwealth also. We have it's not only great to have him here in ceremonies such as this and to be in our community, but it's also great to note that Massachusetts ranks #1 in the country in terms of the programs that we offer for our veterans. That, in addition to the fact that this governor recently provided for a whole lot of money, actually, for the refurbishing of our Chelsea Soldiers Home. Thank you so much, very much for that, Governor. And with them also to have our great Secretary Urena, who's just been doing a great job since his taking over that post under the new administration. Congratulations. And also, I would really be remiss if I didn't thank my colleague in the Senate, Senator Joseph Boncory, who when you talk about some of his priorities since he's been a senator, probably front and center has been service to the veterans. Thank you so much, Joe, for what you have done. And to the council, members of the council who were here, school committee who were here, our fire chief who was here, obviously our police chief slash town manager who was here, and to one of the most respected families that we have in our community, also the Biggio family. It's great also to be here as we honor a special person. It's a pleasure to be here to formally recognize not only first class Biggio, but to reflect on the sacrifices of his family and the service of those who came after, especially nephew Andrew. While most of us pass by this square on a daily basis, this dedication really gives us the opportunity to pay tribute to PFC Biggio. Today, you should also serve as a new beginning, if you will. Let us reaffirm ourselves to upholding the ideals the Biggios fought for, and for our brave men and women continue to fight for today. I'll let the Biggios talk about Andrew's experience overseas, but I do want to note that he fought along the Gothic line in Italy. That, and Operation Olive in particular, were some of the most gruesome and hard-fought parts of the war. Yet sadly, for many years they have gone overlooked. The soldiers fighting on the Gothic line faced steep climbs, intersected by numerous rivers, making their progress all the more challenging. As I read about PFC Biggio again this week, the mountainous imagery stuck with me. Also, let us not forget, as Senator Boncour reminded me yesterday, he's a graduate of the greatest public school in Massachusetts, Boston Latin, by the way, which I happen to go to, if you can probably guess that. Decades out from World War II, it's becoming natural to talk about heroism and sacrifice in broad strokes. So for me, it's important to hear about those personal stories, like Andrew Biggio's, and to look at pictures from the war, like the mountains that form the Gothic line, to remind myself of the outstanding destruction and unrelenting bravery seen in World War II. This morning, we have the opportunity to do that. I sincerely, again, want to thank the members of the Biggio families, the Veterans Agent, my good friend Roseanne Mazzucchelli, thank you, and all those who made today possible. And as we close here today, let us ask God to bless our men and women in uniform, and let us ask God to bless the United States of America. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bob.
Thank you, sweetheart.
Thank you, Bob. And now, our Mass Department of Veteran Services Secretary, Francisco Urena. He was sworn in as Secretary of the Department of Veteran Services by Governor Charlie Baker in February of 2015. Secretary Urena's commitment to government service began the day after graduating high school, when he enlisted in the United States Marine Corps, another Marine. His 8 years of honorable service duties include diplomatic security with the Department of State at 2 American embassies, Syria and Kyrgyzstan. Urena followed his enlistment with a degree in history and legal studies from UMass Lowell. While pursuing his education, Francisco volunteered with assisting veterans, ultimately leading to his role as Veteran Services Officer in the city of Lawrence, and later as Commissioner for Veteran Services for the city of Boston. 2008, Urena was honored with Veteran Services Officer of the Year. He's done so much for our vets. Secretary Urena is committed to helping veterans live with dignity, honor, and independence. He ensures that Mass Department of Veteran Services initiatives focus on these goals. Francisco knows all too well the sacrifices made by our servicemen and women and their families. Francisco, a husband and dad of 2 small children, is a Purple Heart recipient as well, as a result of injuries he had sustained overseas. He goes over and above to ensure our veterans and their families receive benefits which they not only are entitled to, but truly deserve, as well as support from the government and the recognition that goes with it. He makes my job a lot easier, and I would just like all of you to join me in welcoming Francisco Urena.
Good morning, everybody, and what a true privilege it is to be here in Winthrop, and what a beautiful sight this is to see such a community pause in what would otherwise be a busy intersection, to have an opportunity to be reminded, to remind our neighbors and our friends what this square is all about. Such a privilege to be always in the presence of Andy and his family, somebody that is always going above and beyond, a first responder, a veteran, and a friend of the community. To all of the active duty service members that are here, if you could please rise, and let's give a hand to our active duty service members, our veterans who are also here. If you two could please stand, All those who have served, continue to serve, thank you and welcome. You know, as the speaker mentioned and as Senator Boncory mentioned, and I'm sure the governor will mention as well, the aspect of how Massachusetts is number one when it comes to veteran services, but it's not just being number one that continues to motivate us. It's a sense of community, the sense of a true Americana aspects that we see here today in Winthrop and across this great Commonwealth. Yesterday, let me add to that point, was National Prisoner of War and Missing in Action Day. The reason why this chair of honor and this cover that is on this chair today is this chair represents the 83,000 men and women who didn't come home. 83,000 men and women such as Andrew Biggio, who remains are still unaccounted for. And like the Biggio family, they unfortunately, while they had to sacrifice, somewhat fortunate to know where the remains of their loved one is. But 83,000 do not know. And to put that into perspective to our friends who are not from Winthrop, that's about 4.5 times the size of this town. And imagine the emptiness in every one of those families dating back from World War II who are still waiting. Next month, the town of Brookline welcomes back one of their heroes. And we're very proud to be alongside with that family to see those remains come home after 72 years. The aspect that our country's at war, the aspect that men and women are still in front lines are things that we must continue to bear and remember. And that's probably one of the toughest things that keeps me awake, hoping that another one of our service members from Massachusetts is not a call on a parent's door. Sadly, 2 nights ago, a similar family from the town of Dunstable, up north of Lowell, received that call. A 32-year-old Army Staff Sergeant whose family, sadly, are now a Gold Star family. You know, we remember these sense of sacrifices. We know that their service is making a difference, and we know that for as long as men and women are serving in these United States of America as in the military and service, sadly that we will have similar casualties. We ask our military leaders to ensure they do everything they can to prevent such sense of loss in life when it comes to training. But the aspect that men and women are and still in front lines and around the world, and in the aspect of the war on terror, the front lines is in every part of America, in every post that our men and women are serving. May we live our lives worthy of their sacrifice. The sacrifice that Andrew Biggio made many years ago, the sacrifice that 83,000 men and women have made since World War II, and the sacrifice that all of those who have served and have proudly served and are proudly serving till today are continuing to make. This is what makes America a great community, a great country, a great neighborhood, and this is what we're celebrating in a sense today. The aspect of all these men and women who are here. From Marino, a proud Marine who served in Okinawa, to Woody Woodhouse, one of our first part of the Tuskegee Airmen group who have valiantly served, to many who are still in uniform in and around back. I greeted a couple kids here this morning, and I thank their parents for bringing them here today. It is them who are going to carry this legacy as they drive through Hermon Street and Main Street to remind those passerbyers what this square is all about. And may we all continue to have those reminders. I know that some neighbors are overlooking here. They too will be reminded. They too will know who Andrew Biggio was, what his sacrifice was, and what it means to be from Winthrop, such a proud town. Thank you so very much. God bless you all.
Thank you, Francisco. And now, our Governor, Charles Baker. He was inaugurated as the 72nd Governor of the Commonwealth of Mass in January of 2015. After several decades of service in both state government and the private sector. Since taking office, Governor Baker has been making Massachusetts a great place to live, work, and raise a family while delivering a customer service-oriented state government that is as hardworking as the people of the Commonwealth. Upon taking office, Governor Baker worked to close budget gaps totaling over $2 billion without raising taxes. The administration has focused on bolstering local aid for our schools and communities, which is so appreciated, especially here in Winthrop, investing in a more reliable public transportation system, and prioritizing funds to fight the opioid and heroin epidemic. In particular, Governor Baker spearheaded a nationwide compact to focus on opioid prescribing guidelines and education programs for athletes. Residents and businesses in Mass face some of the highest energy costs in the nation. Partnering with the legislature, the administration passed provisions to solicit clean energy, making Massachusetts only the third state, out of all of them, to authorize an energy storage procurement goal. The Baker family reside just across our water in Swampscott. They have been heavily involved in numerous civic and charitable endeavors. Please join me in welcoming our Governor, Charlie Baker. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Well, thank you very much. And some people suggested, geez, I was kind of surprised to see the governor here. So let me tell you why I'm here. I'm here, first of all, because I just love coming to visit the speaker in his hometown, who is truly one of the great public servants on Beacon Hill. And he literally leaned over to me at one point as you were giving me credit for all those things and said, hey, wait a minute, I did most of that. And the point he made there is a good one, which is you don't get anything done in government if you can't find a way to work together. And Senator Boncorian and the Speaker and a lot of the folks who work up on Beacon Hill, you have people who understand that the name of the game here is to actually get stuff done. And all of it is a collaborative effort. And when we succeed, we all succeed together. And when we fail together. And that's not a Republican or a Democrat or an independent thing. That's just the way it is. And I really appreciate especially the tone that's set by these folks, because it makes it possible for all of us to see past the small stuff and focus on the stuff that matters, like today. And part of the reason I wanted to be here was last week we had a ceremony in Swampscott where, after many years of dithering, we figured out how to get a turf field on an all-purpose turf field at our football field, which is now being used for girls soccer, field hockey, soccer, boys soccer, lacrosse, and football. And the field is called Bloxage Field. And when I stood up to make my remarks, I said, let me tell you a little bit about John Enos Bloxage, who the field is named after, who was a young kid from Swampscott, serving in the military in World War I, and he died 30 days before Armistice Day. And he's a great kid, everybody loved him, came from a wonderful family. And I just wanted to make sure that everybody knew who he was. And I told some stories about what some of the old-timers in Swampscott knew about him and about his family. And a whole bunch of people came up to me afterwards. We had a big crowd there for the event. And they said, you know, I never knew what Bloxage Field meant or what it was all about. I didn't know it was named after a guy named John Enos Bloxage. I didn't know it was named after a guy who served in World War I. I didn't know it was named after a guy who died 30 days before Armistice Day. And I just want to thank you so much for filling me in, because that was important. And this rededication today is along those same lines. You know, we all drive through these squares, and we all drive over these bridges, and we drive past these monuments, or we walk past them, and they just become kind of part of the background. And I think it's really important, if you have an opportunity like this, to remind people about who these people were and what they did. I mean, my God, when you read through what the 34th Infantry Division was all about, it's incredible. And I think in some respects that stuff gets lost over time. And having a chance to revisit it on a day like this and talk about it and remember and remind ourselves about the sacrifices that were made by those who came before us, I can't think of a better way to spend a Saturday morning, or a Monday morning, or a Sunday morning, or a Tuesday, or a Wednesday, or a Thursday, or Friday. Now, I live on Monument Ave in Swampscott, and from one end to the other are sort of all the monuments from all the wars, from the Civil War all the way through the War on Terror. And when I go look at the names on those monuments, those names are the families of Swampscott. I mean, it's unbelievable how from the Civil War all the way forward, through World War I, World War II, the Korean War, Vietnam, the War on Terror, those names are the names of the many of the friends and neighbors I have who live in that town right now. And I always think about the fact that generation after generation after generation answers the call. And what we would be if we didn't have people who generation after generation answered that call and stood up for freedom and basically preserved what makes this country great on behalf of the rest of us. Now, the fact that Andrew Biggio's namesake, Andrew Biggio, has been such a major player in the Wounded Vet Ride, which every year raises money and awareness for wounded vets here in the Commonwealth of Mass, that's not a coincidence. That's the same statement I see on those monuments in Swampscott, which is that sense of duty, that sense of service, and that patriotism that flows from generation to generation to generation and is in full display in what Andrew and his folks do with that ride every year. But that's where it started. It started with this guy right here. And I think having a chance to come out today and to honor him and to remember what he was all about and his fellow officers and soldiers and sailors and airmen were all about, and having a chance to reflect on that and how that notion gets passed down from one generation to another, and how grateful we as members of this community, members of this Commonwealth, and members of this country ought to be, because of all of those who stood up, put on the uniform, and preserved our freedom. What a wonderful way to start a Saturday. And that's why I'm here today, to have a chance to say to all of you, God bless Andrew, God bless the men and women in uniform, and God bless the United States and all that we have collaboratively been able to achieve because of the sacrifices of people like Andrew. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Governor. Major General John Jensen is the commanding general of the 34th Red Bull Infantry Division based in Rosemount, Minnesota. A little bit of a distance from here. He'll assume the duties as Minnesota's 31st Adjutant General in November of 2017. In his upcoming assignment, he will command more than 13,000 soldiers and airmen of the Minnesota National Guard and will serve as Governor Mark Dayton's Commissioner of the Department of Military Affairs. General Jensen was born and raised in Council Bluffs, Iowa. Again, a little bit of a distance from here. He enlisted in the Iowa National Guard in November of '82 as a combat medic. In May of '89, he attended the U.S. Army Officer Candidate School at Fort Benning, Georgia, and was commissioned as an infantry lieutenant in 1989. He was promoted to his current rank in June of 2017. General Jensen's command assignments include 2nd Battalion, 135th Infantry Regiment, the same infantry regiment that Private First Class Andrew Biggio served with during the World War II, the 1st Armored Brigade Combat Team, and the commanding general, 34th Infantry Division. That is also PFC Biggio's divisional unit of assignment. General Jensen has deployed in support of Operation Desert Spring, Kuwait, Operations Joint Forge, Bosnia-Herzegovina, and twice to Operation Iraqi Freedom. Major General Jensen and family reside in Apple Valley, Minnesota. Please join me in welcoming Major General John Jensen. Thank you for being here.
I was hoping I was going to get a hug from Rose, too. I thought maybe because I'm a stranger, I wouldn't get one. But there are no strangers in Winthrop, Massachusetts. Before I begin my remarks, I would like us just, as the Secretary mentioned, just pause a quick moment to honor Staff Sergeant Alexander DeLita from Dunstable, Massachusetts, who this week lost his life in a training accident at Fort Bragg, North Carolina. thank you for that. While I don't know him, while I don't know his family, I know that he's here from Massachusetts, and I know your thoughts and prayers are with his family. Governor Baker, Speaker DeLeo, Senator Boncory, family and friends of our honoree, PFC Andrew Biggio, service members, veterans, it is an honor to be here in the historical homeland of the 26th Yankee Division, and an extreme honor and privilege to be a part of this dedication. Thank you, thank you, thank you to the City of Winthrop, American Legion Post 146, the Italian American War veterans, and most importantly, my new best friend in Massachusetts, Andy Biggio, for hosting us today. You know, I think it is a testament of Andy's humility that if you notice where he placed himself in today's ceremony, put himself on the second row, not the first row where a lot of people would have done that. So, Andy, it's noticed. Your passion for your veterans is noticed, and I thank you for that. I'm here today. Yeah, absolutely. I'm here today representing all the soldiers of today's 34th Red Bull Infantry Division, and to honor one of our own Red Bulls, PFC Andrew Biggio. Many of you know the Biggio family, and a few of you have known Andrew personally. I don't, so it's been a fantastic time Thursday evening to listen as young Andy talked about PFC Andrew and what he accomplished, and to learn a little bit more about PFC Biggio. I'm here today to tell you a little bit about the unit he served with and ultimately gave the supreme sacrifice in service to. PFC Biggio was part of the 135th Infantry Regiment, Company B, which would have placed him in 1st Battalion. This regiment is a historic infantry regiment from out west. Yes, before places like Minnesota were referred to as flyover country, we were referred to as out west. The 135th draws its lineage from the 1st Minnesota Regiment, the first regiment to be offered to President Lincoln. In a somewhat of a historical quirk, Minnesota's Governor Ramsey, was at the White House when the president was informed of the shelling of Fort Sumter. Governor Ramsey immediately pledged an infantry regiment to the president, and later that month, 1,000 soldiers would muster under the flag of the 1st Minnesota at Fort Snelling, Minnesota, and serve in the Eastern Theater of War, very unique for a Western regiment. Battle streamers from the 1st and 2nd Bull Run, Antietam, Fredericksburg, and Gettysburg were earned during their initial 3 years of service. At the Battle of Gettysburg, the regiment earned its place in history at Cemetery Ridge. Outmanned 6-1, the regiment was ordered to fill a hole in the Union lines by attacking. When asked by the Corps commander, General Hancock, how long the regiment could hold the line, the regimental commander, Colonel William Colville, replied, "To the last man." And so they did. 82% of the soldiers that afternoon would become casualties. And to this day, "To the last man" remains the regimental motto. During World War II, as mentioned, PFC Biggio would join the 34th Red Bull Division, a National Guard division initially formed from Iowa, Minnesota, North Dakota, and South Dakota. But by the time 1944 arrived, when PFC Biggio joined the division had become an all-American division, as men from all over the United States came to replace the casualties from North Africa and the early stages of the Italian campaign. During the wars, as we have heard, the 34th Division would spend more days in combat than any other United States division. 517 days, with some elements spending 611 days in combat. According to the regimental records of the 135th, on 17 September 1944, east of Mangola, Italy, approximately 25 miles north of Florence, Italy, PFC Biggio was one of 5 killed in action on that date. Captain Joe H. Kimball, PFC Cecil Airwood, Staff Sergeant William E. Davis, and PFC Carlo Amato were also killed in action that day. 20 other soldiers of the regiment would be wounded on 17 September. The fighting was fierce in September of 1944 along the Gothic line. 107 soldiers, 313 wounded, and 23 missing in action during this bloody month in the 135th Regiment alone. This was a hard, hard month for the division. So while I never met PFC Andy Biggio, I've met many that served with him, old Red Bulls that continue to visit us on occasion. These men, the men that served with Andrew Biggio, were proud men, proud of their accomplishments and proud of their unit. They were humble men. They didn't really particularly care being called the greatest generation. They did what they had to do, and they hated war. But they knew what they had to do and why they needed to do it. These men like Andrew Biggio, fought and died because they believed that you had to stand up and confront hatred and bigotry. You have to stand up to the twisted ideals and hatred of Nazism and fascism. They believed that if they remained silent, the free world and the light of life and liberty would disappear into the abyss of darkness. So I'm here today to thank Andrew Biggio for his example, for his service, and to acknowledge and honor his sacrifice. I'm here today to help honor my fellow Red Bull soldier. The Red Bulls of today are proud to be represented by a soldier like Andrew Biggio, and we hope we've made him proud through our service during our time. I have one request before I close, and that one request is much like the governor mentioned. When you drive by this square and you see this simple monument to PFC Andrew Biggio, I ask that you say a quick prayer for him and for all of our service members who have served and continue to serve today. Thank you all for joining us this morning, and I leave you with my division motto: attack, attack, attack. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks for being here. Thank you, General Jensen, and I also got pinned by the General earlier, so and he told me I can keep it, which I'm going to. So, Sergeant Andrew Biggio is the nephew of PFC Biggio and a Marine, a very proud Marine. Andrew, the former veteran service officer from Melrose Wakefield Saugus District, knows how important it is to serve and recognize fellow veterans. Before Andrew was deployed to Afghanistan, he completed a very different kind of mission, a mission from the heart. Andrew is the founder and driving force behind They Fought, We Ride, a wounded vets motorcycle ride, which is now in many states across our great land. And some of the members are here today. Thank you all for being here. This all started when Andy was at the young age of 23. This Winthrop, Mass native organized and led some 350 motorcyclists on a charity ride to benefit his friend, also 23, and a paratrooper who had suffered horrific brain injury in Iraq. That Boston Wounded Vets ride successfully raised over $80,000 to be used to support wounded veterans, such as providing his friend a much-needed renovations in the basement of his parents' home, as well as the walkways and other improvements, so he could live here with the support of a loving family, and this was only the beginning for this. In 2012, Massachusetts Motorcycle Association held their Storm of the State House Legislative Lobby Day, which was attended by hundreds of riders from across the Commonwealth, and was pleased to coordinate the awarding of a citation issued by the Mass State Senate to Marine Corps Andrew Biggio for his tireless efforts in supporting his fellow veterans. 2017 marked the 7th year of the Wounded Vets Ride and has raised thousands and thousands of dollars to assist our veterans. Andrew also has been appointed by Governor Charlie Baker to the committee which oversees the construction, maintenance, and dedication of the new Mass Iraq and Afghanistan Fallen Heroes Memorial. I think Andrew is amazing. So please join me in welcoming Marine Corps Andrew Biggio. Thank you, Sunshine. Thank you.
How's everyone doing today? Good? First things first, before I start to talk about my uncle and thank everyone, if you can, I would like the World War II veterans to please stand to be recognized. You are the greatest generation. We're here because of you. first and foremost, on behalf of my family and especially my grandfather John, Papa, you're the only one who knows what it was like for the Army to come to the house that day and tell them that your brother was killed in action. Can you stand too, please? I can tell you right now, you've made Andrew very proud. Starting a business, a family, you made a sacrifice worthwhile, and I know he's looking down. I wish Uncle Al could be here too, so you made him proud. Last October, my family and I, we were privileged to go back to Italy to where my uncle fought along with the 34th Infantry Division. We visited battle sites, cemeteries, and it's funny because when people think of World War II, they think of the flag raising on Mount Suribachi, they think of D-Day, Normandy, and they think of Pearl Harbor, but very seldom is the Italian campaign memorialized. Which is, it's kind of crazy because the 34th Infantry Division had over 500 days of combat, thousands upon thousands of casualties, and they were fighting an enemy that could just roll a grenade down a hill at you. It was all up, up, up for that division and the other divisions that were there serving during World War II. Our trip to Italy was as moving as a family experience could get. We literally walked in our uncle's footsteps and saw where he was dug in on the night of this September 17th. But the thing that was most emotional to me, having never seen a international U.S. military cemetery in a foreign land, it was my first time seeing the Florence National American Cemetery, where thousands of men are still there. They never came home. They never came back to America. They never saw the end of the war. I'll never know all their names. You'll never know all their names, but they're still there and they're being maintained. So that's why I do take special offense if someone doesn't stand for the national anthem, or someone steps on our flag, or they burn our flag. Because no matter, if we do become divided, if we do have our differences, if there's something we all don't socially agree on as a country, we should not take it out on the flag. Andrew Biggio Andrew died with the flag on his shoulder. He never got to have a steady girlfriend. He never got to have a family. He never got to have kids. He never got to go to college. He never got to come back to that third house, that third brick house. And when you do desecrate our flag, it's no different than coming behind me and kicking this sign over. You know, between my own experiences, Iraq and Afghanistan, and the letters I read from Andrew, the fighting, the mortal wounds he suffered, and the way his body came home intact, I'm not entirely convinced that my uncle died right away or fast on that mountain. So when I see an American flag and I see the blood stripes in the American flag, I don't see a flag. I see a 19-year-old kid calling out for help. That's what I see. And 73 years later, we're unveiling this monument, and that's just to keep his sacrifice alive. And, you know, I talked a little bit about the flag and some other stuff, but there's two gentlemen that I hear today that they weren't even allowed to serve with white troops. They were called every name in the book you can think of. They were racially discriminated against, and half of them didn't even get the medals they were supposed to because of the color of their skin. And I want to have Colonel Enoch and Delbrook to stand, original Tuskegee Airmen. Thank you for still believing in our country. Thank you for still coming out here. 70 years later, thank you for still supporting everything. You know, I'm sitting here, I'm looking at the governor of Massachusetts. I'm proud to serve on the governor's Veterans Advisory Board. And I'm looking at a major general, and I'm looking at two colonels. I mean, this is something that would have never happened 73 years ago. Not because Andrew's sacrifice wasn't valued as important, it's because how many guys were coming home killed in action? These guys couldn't be everywhere, and they were deployed, and we were trying to stop the world from getting taken over. And you know, General and Colonel, when you guys go back to the Red Bull Division, please let them know that 73 years later, they would still have made a difference. And that we appreciate you guys coming out here. I just want to thank the Adjutant General for sending the Colonel here of the Mass National Guard. I want to thank the American Legion Post 146, Francisco Urena, Richie Honan, Chief Delahanty, and Deputy Chief Goodwin, who helped us shut these roads down. My father, my aunt, my uncle, and my family. Jeff Brodeur from the National Director of the Korean War Veterans. And the only other person who knows my family's pain, if there's any other Gold Star families here, I apologize, but Russ Currier, whose son Eric was killed in action in Afghanistan. Where are you, Russ? Thank you so much. I wanted to do a little research and see if there was, I could find a veteran that was, didn't necessarily serve next to my uncle, but in the same battles and in the same vicinity as my uncle. And Francisco Urena gave him the name of a gentleman named Rocco in East Boston. And he's in his 93rd year, he tells me. And he was attached to the Red Bull Division in Italy. He fought in and around the same battles as my Uncle Andrew did. And I think today, the 85th Infantry Division, he was side by side with the Red Bull Division. You're a Red Bull, and you know that. Come on up, and I'll have to say a few words.
You can walk faster than this.
You want a chair to hold on to?
No, I'm all set. It's an honor and privilege to be here this morning. Oh, what have I got? Oh, you can tell I've been awake too long. Oh, well, here we go. Can you hear me now? It's an honor and a privilege to be here this morning. And I want to thank the honorable people from Massachusetts and the governor specifically and all the other honorable guests. I happen to be the same age as Andy, 1940, 1925. And that 34th Red Bull Division not only was on the Gothic line, on Monte Cassino, they fought 3 weeks to take the Monte Cassino hill. It was impossible. The Abbey was controlled by the German army. It was an outpost. The British wanted it knocked down. The Americans didn't. The 34th fought for 3 weeks. One man got into it 400 yards into the town. He was captured, got the Medal of Honor. So this division, I had the honor on the Gothic line. There were 2 passes there. It was known as the Fuda Pass, and the Il Giorgio Pass. They were brutal defense line. Andy was a replacement. I was a replacement for the 339th. This division in World War I, incidentally, fought on the Bolshevik Tsar line in Russia. And Mr. Khrushchev, many years ago, took a shoe off and said, "You people invaded my country." He meant my division, which unconsciously I got attached to. A replacement in those days came into a replacement depot. He was given a number with chalk on his helmet. Unfortunately, many of them died with the number still on their helmet. Now, to go into Andy's, what he did, I would say that the artillery was so fierce on that Il Giorgio Fuda Pass that I want to present, if possible, here, and Andy, your cousin and everything, I have a, where's Andy? Would you accept this on behalf of the Gothic line?
Wow.
This is what the Italian Army gave us on the 30th anniversary that we got there. I was there in Italy twice. We built 2 monuments there. My division at Purple Heart Valley.
Yep.
And that is what they gave us. See, we were attached at that time. We went to 12 of us with the 338 Division.
Thank you.
So that was given to us.
Thank you.
Please accept it. It's an honor. It's an honor to give it. Please accept. So, you know, I could ramble on forever. My dear beloved, who's taking care of his sister this morning, said, "I hate to go because they're going to shut you off and pull a hook on you." Well, I was at the 50th anniversary, and guess what? They also had us at the Washington, the press club. Who gets over to the press club? So the guys with me dared me to get up and speak. So I got up, I hobbled up and started talking about, I got the hook. I don't want to get the hook there this morning, but I want to close up by saying, this division, you see, after Rome was taken, it became a forgotten front. All the articles in the paper would say, well, there's a skirmish on the line, and men were on the Monte Cassino line, the same as the Gothic line. Men more died from trench foot, pneumonia, and dysentery than anything imaginable. We asked for, my division also asked for men from Washington. Fight for what you have. But a few days later, they sent 800 cooks from France. Well, they had a rifle, they had infantry training. So it became, again, a battle of trench foot, dysentery, and pneumonia. And I'm wearing right now a gallon pair of shoes from the veteran governments that has 25 vents on each shoe, 50 vents to keep my, I wasn't frozen. They got me back in time. But let's get back to Andrew Biggio for one more minute. As I said, I'm gonna finish in about 1 minute. The dedication to these people that fought in Italy was not given. I understand that the total casualties were about 180 to 90,000. True figures are jumbled up here and there. But the forgotten front was not a forgotten. The only reason they had 25 American divisions and 23 German divisions was to stop the Germans from being on the Normandy front. Because if we didn't contain them, Normandy would not have been taken. One German panzer division almost pushed us onto the sea as it was. And with that, I want to say again, it was a pleasure and an honor and a stink I will never remember. Is there a Lieutenant Woodhouse? Did I hear somebody, class of 43 here?
Colonel?
Where is he,
Colonel Woodhouse?
Colonel Woodhouse.
Woodhouse.
Colonel. Where are you, Colonel?
He's right there.
Remember you were at the reunion we had?
Yes, that's right.
Where is the chubby fellow? Where is your chubby fellow? He eats too much. Tell him not to eat. Again.
I love it. Watch your step on this cord here. Hey, Rocco, don't go anywhere. Captain, can you come up here? Sergeant?
I gave him a bulletin over there.
Yeah.
Nice job. Very nice.
That guy's
who all shall see this President's greeting, this is to certify the President of the United States of America has awarded the Purple Heart, established by General George Washington at Newport, New York, August 7th, 1782, to Private First Class Rocco A. Talese, U.S. Army, for wounds received in action at the Gothic Line, Italy, September 1944, given under my hand in this city of Washington this September 16th day of 2017.
Thank you, John.
This was something that I don't have a hearing aid on there. I didn't know about my Army records. You're going to have to bear with me for another couple of minutes. This to me is, so in 2001, I went up and said, why are they giving me 130% disability? I said, they're not my records. What do you mean, not your records? It had 3 folders at the JFK. Well, from 2001, I don't want to mention the organization. They said, look, you're getting 130. We got to take care of the Afghanistan and the other. I said, you certainly do. They deserve a medal. All I want, I was hit twice. On the maternal line, on the casino line, I was given sodium amytal, or I'm giving my medical records again, I know, and put to sleep for a while. On the Florence, for you to pass, my hand was bandaged. They had no records, but they had them. This is something that is cherished. So I put in for the Purple Heart. Guess what? They have all kinds of records. Snafu, as the Army calls it, the snafu. So here I am walking at 93. This was, I don't know, Andy.
You deserve it.
No.
You earned it.
You know, at the 50th anniversary, I met my colonel in Italy, and I said, you know, Colonel, I really shouldn't be here, I said, because I was in the hospital quite a time, and I was evacuated twice. Well, he said, you made it to the Austrian border, didn't you? Stay put. But I feel every day that I didn't give enough, because I lasted on the Gothic line only from September 13th to the end of September. Now I'm going to, again, God bless. I must say one thing to this square. The thing that bothers me daily now is, in the South, the removal of those monuments. And now they're going after General George Washington. Thank you.
Love it. Thank you. I want to walk that over there. I'm going to have my grandfather and General Jensen and my father and Uncle John, Aunt Marie, if you can help them unveil the sign as well. Nina, you can come up as well. On this side. Come on this side. That's what the rope is. Yep. Dad, you might need a good tug on that. You're all going to have to pull on that. It's a little tight.
Hold on, hold on.
Not too hard. Go ahead.
If we would all rise for taps, which is being performed by American Legion, Post 146.
One second, guys. They're going to shoot some guns.
Thank you, American Legion Post 146. Please have a seat. I want to thank you all, not only from me, by the Biggio family, for being here to honor this great American soldier who made the ultimate sacrifice for our country. Also, thank you to all of you who joined us today, especially Andy, his family, our speakers, and everyone who made this possible. American Legion Post 146 was always there whenever I need. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Norman Gill, past Veteran Service Officer for the town of Winthrop. I have an amazing job because I get to help my fellow veterans every single day, and I love it. It's probably one of my best jobs, other than being a mom, of course, to having here. I want to say God bless to our service members, their families, and to our great nation. Thank you all for being here.